Hello everyone, this is Bobbin Threadbare, and welcome back to The Longest Journey. Alright. Just on shore and we've already got a new entry. Got a few of these to go through, in fact. Alright. So we have now been at this for 8 days.
Debris from another capsized ship. These must be dangerous waters.
The whole game in 8 days.
It's a long rope.
Yeah, that figures.
I could get lost if I just wander off into the jungle with no idea what the island looks like or where I'm heading.
Well, you know what? Maybe we need someone who can get a bird's eye view of the island. Hey, he's here.
April! You're alive! You're here! You're soaking wet! Where did you go? I thought you drowned. I was completely miserable. And the chicks on this island are so prissy. They don't even care for a kiss unless you're all settled down with a nest in your own territory.
Glad to see you haven't lost the gift of the gab, Crow.
Lady, you have no idea how limited bird Twitter can be. It's all, hi this and here I am that, all damn day long. I haven't had a decent conversation in days.
Well, you're making up for it now.
I never know when you're gonna go AWOL on me again.
Hey, on the bright side, human Twitter is up to 280 characters per twit.
I had a little adventure under the sea.
Oh? I didn't know humans had gills.
We don't. Well, I do. I think. At least I can breathe underwater now.
Cool. Not as cool as being able to fly, of course, but still. Hey, does that mean you're a mermaid?
Hardly. I don't have a tail. What did you do after I saw you last?
Well, it took a while, but I found land. Not this island, just a rock with a couple of trees, basically. But when I went back to tell you, you disappeared. I thought you'd gone bonkers from thirst and hunger and drowned yourself or something, so I decided I'd better find solid ground myself or I'd suffer the same fate. And then I found this place. Nice, isn't it? And the best part is, there are no hunters. Only a bunch of big crabs on the east side of the island and a volcano.
I'm gonna walk around for a bit, Crow.
I'll just stay here and preen myself, thank you very much.
With Crow around, a girl can feel safe.
Well, before we go, it's about that thing we brought you in for.
What can you tell me about the island, Crow?
Only what I've been able to see from above. There's a volcano, dead I think, and lots of jungle, and some nice beaches.
I'd like to explore the jungle, but I'm afraid I'm gonna get lost. Any ideas?
Well, I could stay airborne and keep track of where you are. That way I could direct you when you get lost.
Sounds like a super plan, Crow.
Let's go.
Alright. Well, and yeah, here's the island map. Well, we don't need to see the volcano just yet. Looks like we've got other ways we can go from here. Like this place.
It's the village of the giant crabs. Hey, that sounds like a great name for a B-movie. Village of the Giant Crabs. It's a big statue.
Who's moaning?
It's some kind of giant crab. Sounds like the poor thing's in a lot of pain. Yeah, the shell does look way too tight. Maybe he's outgrown it but can't shed it. Or whatever it's called. Clear, unpolluted waters, overflowing with life. Just one more reason why Arcadia is both the vacationers' and environmental activists' wet dream. Literally.
If you say so. But yeah, apparently that crab is noteworthy enough to earn a journal page. Not like we have anything that could handle a tight-fitting shell like that, though. At least not yet.
I'll just take a shot here and ask you, is there any chance you speak, like, a real language? Like, Arcadian or English?
It's called All Tongue.
Okay. Now, is there some kind of magic I have to learn, or potion I have to drink, or eat, or ingest in some way to learn your language? Because that's usually how it goes. No? Too bad, although I'm glad I don't have to draw blood or swallow a stone or something. Can't help but feel that you're asking me for help, though. It's the strangest thing. After all, you're just clicking your claws, aren't you? It's not as if you're really talking, is it?
Could be talking in a kind of Morse code. Right, anyway, there is this up here.
It's an old fireplace. I can see clear to the bottom. This really is an excellent spot for fishing.
So what is this?
The top half of the statue depicts a creature with a big mouth calling out. The bottom part of the statue depicts a creature with large ears listening to something.
Some kind of audio relay?
It's a triangular hole, like a keyhole. It's a creature with large ears. It's a creature with a big mouth.
Some of the, symbols seem to have been torn out. Oh well. I believe there's also a place to the left here. Sure enough.
It's the ruins of an old city. Dense jungle.
Well, there's a hole over here. And another one of those statues.
It's a deep hole. More like a crevice, actually, caused by some kind of seismic activity. God, it must be at least 50 meters down. The crevice widens out into a huge cave just below, and there's water at the bottom. It's a tiny tree.
Yeah, that's good enough to hold a rope. In April's weight. And down we go. And why, yes, she does use that to climb up. Which means that April is somehow able to climb up a straight rope, 50 meters long, without anything to brace herself against. Damn, April. But yeah, this is the city we've heard about, or seen about in the carvings.
Big nests, once housing the elation, but now empty and in disrepair.
That's all there is up here. Oh, but we can go down. Yeah, and then there's the Marum.
It's the remains of a stone structure that probably fell down here through the crevice. There's a piece amongst the rubble that looks like a bolt or a key. It's intact.
Let's grab it then.
It's a kind of stone key carved into the uncanny likeness of a key, with a head on the end.
A very familiar looking head, no less.
That's a Marum city.
Yeah, go figure. Anyway, we only really needed the key, and to know that this place exists, which you have to, because you need the key. So let's continue.
The bottom half of the statue depicts a
Alright, bear with me, guys. I'm still a little rusty on a lot of these puzzles. So I'm going to be taking this one slow so I can write everything down.
It's a triangular hole, like a keyhole.
Or actually, there's only one keyhole, so... yeah, turning it the different direction turns the other wheel. That might just be me, but I think the catalog of symbols is different, even accounting for the missing ones.
It's a triangular hole, like a keyhole.
Well, we'll see. Figure out what all this means. And we will do so by heading into the jungle and then straight up to the volcano. Yeah, that's a pretty clear indication that there's something going on here.
The rumbling is much fiercer here, and the ground is really shaking. It's definitely seismic. It has got to be emanating from this volcanic mountain. I mean, it looks dead, but it must be about to wake up or erupt or something. Great! After surviving a shipwreck, being kidnapped by fishes, and learning to breathe in water, I'm about to die in a volcanic eruption? Isn't that ironic?
Not really.
That's one mother of a tree. It's got to be at least 100 meters tall. And what's that in the tree crown? Looks like a man-made construction.
Interesting. She's talking about the thing that she was just overlapping there for a second. Oh, yeah, okay, just climb right in. I don't know, if those other things are sound relays, this might be like the giant PA system. Now what's this?
It's a small, eye-sized aperture with a crystal in it, like a lens. Maybe some kind of telescope? What a strange symbol. I don't see anything interesting. It's a keyhole.
Let me check something here.
It's a statue standing in the ruins of a city.
Aha, so each symbol represents one location. You gotta write this down too.
I can see a statue on a cliff overlooking the sea.
Okay, we're making progress now.
I don't see anything interesting.
I'm guessing some of these are broken.
I don't see anything interesting. I don't see anything interesting.
Come on, come on.
It's a statue just below a really tall tree.
Aha. That'll probably come up.
I don't see anything interesting. Somebody's looking back at me. Oh, wait. That's just my eye. The lens is turned into a mirror.
Okay, so the big fancy symbol represents the PA mouth. Also good to know.
I don't see anything interesting.
And we're back to the start again. But this... it might change something to point this at somewhere in particular, so that's why I did that. Alright, but we've looked at the large tree, so... yeah, now we can go here. Those are some suspiciously polygonal branches.
Dried twigs and sticks.
Unlikely.
Dried twigs...
Right, so we've got another one of these giant statues here. With its own set of things. And there does not appear to be anything else to do on this screen. Except leave it. And now I'm back, several minutes later, having flailed around pointlessly, going from one statue to another, when the real key that I missed was to walk further into this area.
Dried...
Ow!
Shh. Who's there?
Shut up.
I know there's somebody there. I heard you.
Is she gone?
Nope. She's still around.
Shut up, shut up, shut up.
If you won't come out, I'll just sit down here and wait. Sooner or later, you'll have to show yourself.
Come on, they're moving.
Solar eclipse!
Oh my god!
Ah!
I hate this place. I so hate it, I can't even sit down without crushing the natives.
Big person alert!
What are you?
What does it look like?
A talking twig?
We're stickmen. And you're an accident waiting to happen with your large, ungainly body and wobbly legs.
What's a stickman?
An unlucky bugger doomed to a miserable life of stiff backs and monotonous drudgery in the shadow of a mother tree.
Happy little fella, ain't ya?
You have no idea.
So, you guys are stickmen?
That's right. I'm Wick. This is Willow, and that dumb-looking one over there is Woody. And this is our mother tree.
What's a mother tree?
What do you mean, what's a mother tree? It's a mother tree. How difficult can it be? It's our mother, and it's a tree. It's a mother tree.
What do stickmen do?
What do we do? What do we do? What do you mean, what do we do?
Well, the people in this world always do something. Like the Banda dug tunnels in the earth. The Merum killed Snapjaw and covered their houses with Tanyen. You gotta do something.
Hey, it ain't easy being a stick, let me tell you. You got your stiff back and limbs, your fear of fire and water, your 300 years of miserable boredom, and then you have to get planted and raise a family. It ain't easy.
So, you're not doing anything worthwhile then?
Lady, I'm miserable. I'm grumpy, and I got a headache. What do you want from me?
Where do the Elation live?
The Elation? The guys with wings? Up in the volcano. There's an old city in there. I think they're squatting.
How do I get into the volcano?
You don't? The road collapsed a few centuries ago, and when traders come, the Elation fly down to meet them. Nobody goes up there anymore.
What's that constant rumbling noise?
Lady, you have no idea what we have to endure. All day, all night, that noise is just murder. It all started when Kwaman, the quiet giant, would you believe that's what we used to call him, was banished by the Orowal from his perfect fishing place to some remote place in the forest.
Whoa, information overload. Let's step back for a minute to fill in the details. Who's Kwaman, the quiet giant?
He's the scariest human we've ever seen. He stands tall as a mountain and uses whole trees for toothpicks. But he was the quiet type and reasonably gentle for a human. He'd spend his days out by the Orowal village, catching fish and frying fish and eating fish, and looking out across the ocean, dreaming about loose women or whatnot.
What happened to get the quiet giant banished from that place?
The Orowal got scared when he accidentally stepped on one of their young ones. He didn't do any real harm, but they banished him from their village nonetheless, and told him to go far into the forest.
Who are the Orlowal?
They're the crab-like creatures who live down by the sea. They're nice people, if a little crabby. And it's hard to understand what they're saying half the time.
Where's Kwaman now?
Somewhere in the forest east of here, we don't know where exactly. He went there to get as far away from the Orowal as possible.
So what does all this have to do with the rumbling noise?
Oh, I was getting to that. If you just let me get a word in edgewise.
I just had some questions is all.
Anyway, Quaman is the brooding type. And he takes everything so to heart, he got instantly depressed and went to sleep.
And what is he doing now?
Still sleeping. That's the problem.
But how long ago was it that the Orlewall banished him?
The last full moon, nearly 30 sunsets passed.
He's been sleeping for a month?
He was depressed. What do you want, lady? Once I got so miserable I slept for 8 years. And let me tell you, those 8 years were the happiest of my life.
How can you sleep for 8 years?
With these morons around? I'm not even gonna answer that question.
No, really. 8 years?
Us stickmen grow to be hundreds of years old. 8 years is nothing.
But still, 8 years is almost half my life.
You're a baby. When you grow up, you'll understand.
I still don't understand what this has to do with the rumbling noise.
See that statue over there?
Sure. What's up with that?
Back when the Dalmari lived on this island ages ago, they put these statues up all around the island so that they could speak with each other.
You're kidding. So they're, like, telephones?
Tell her what? I don't know what that is. The thing is, these statues are all connected through magic. And when you speak into one, your voice flies through the air and comes out of another statue.
But I still don't understand...
You saw the big head up by the mountain?
Yes?
That's the one they use to talk to everyone on the island, to warn people of storms or to hold evening prayer. It's connected to the statues as well. And Quaman is sleeping right next to a statue's ear.
I get it. Resonance. He's snoring and the deep bass reverberating through the loudspeaker, the big head, causes a resonance that vibrates the entire island. But can't you just wake him up?
We don't know where he is. We're not much for exploring this forest. There's water and fire and monkeys. Monkeys like to play with sticks. We don't like monkeys.
But can't you just, well, send your voice to his statue to wake him up?
There are 4 problems with that. Number 1, all the statues have an assigned symbol, an identifying mark, but we don't know which his is. Second, most of the statues are broken in some way or another.
What do you mean?
Some statues can only talk to certain other statues. Some can't be spoken to, and some can't hear, which makes it very difficult to get a connection through to where you want to send your voice. Number 3, in order to use the statues, you need a key. We don't have it. We don't know where it is.
And number 4?
We're stickmen, lady. What do you think? We don't know much about magic or magical devices. And
what?
We're not too smart, okay? There, I said it. We're not too smart. And when you look at Woody over there, who's pretty stupid by stickman standards, that's a pretty scary thought.
Sorry I asked.
Okay. So for this puzzle, we actually get an explanation of how it works. And apparently they don't react to the keys, so I can climb the tree now. That wasn't there before. Some sort of crazy crossbow here.
It's a big wooden crossbow, I guess. I wonder who built it and what it's for. If I could somehow get across to that path on the other side, I'd probably be able to make my way into the Elation village.
I kind of think that those two things are connected. But I don't really have a string for the bow. I have to do something about that. But yeah, so I believe we don't actually need to change the orientation inside the mouth. That's just to identify which statue goes with which symbol. What we need is to point a statue at the giant mouth. and for whatever reason, we can only speak into the statue that's by the tree. So we need to connect the two by using a relay of these statues. Of course, we don't know which statue that Quamon is sleeping next to, which is why we have to use the PA system instead, because that is guaranteed to be loud enough for him to hear. Possibly loud enough to wake him up, too. So, I have set this one to hear the statue that's by the cliff. And I'm hoping it will be able to speak to, the PA system. Okay, this one is all set up for me. Okay, so this one I need to set to speak to the one at the ruins, and to listen to the one at the tree. Now that was actually the S. I have screwed this puzzle up, but I will not realize it until later.
It's a creature with a big mouth. The bottom part of the statue depicts a creature with large ears listening to something.
Yes, this is me discovering that I cannot, in fact, speak to it from here. Wonder if I figured it out yet. I don't think so. But, yeah, other note is that the missing pieces, because they are missing, you cannot actually, they do not speak to anything. It's not like sort of the figure out the missing pattern kind of thing, where you look at the top and the bottom and figure out which symbols are missing. If a symbol is missing, that means it is non-functional. That is why you need a relay and why you cannot speak to the PA system directly from the Force statue. And yes, I pressed the wrong button and had to go through the entire circle again. Luckily, it gave me enough time to explain how this whole thing works. But yes, here I realized that you can, in fact, speak through the tree statue. So let's arrange things so that I can put that in the relay. Alright. So I need this one to be able to hear me. So that means the ears have to be set to this location, which is the S.
Hello?
And with hearing me, it sends it to...
Doesn't seem like it's working.
nowhere. I screwed up. I mean, I didn't screw up completely. This is aimed at the right spot, but the right spot is not hearing me. That's what I screwed up.
The bottom part of the statue.
Okay, yeah. It is speaking to the tree location. It's not listening to it.
It's a triangular hole, like a keyhole.
Whoops. You can actually speed this up a little bit by hammering the escape key. But only by a little bit. Alright. Hearing the tree speaking to ruins. Ruins should be just fine. Let's go try this again.
Hello?
Nice.
Hello? Hello? Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Who'll be there?
I think we've accomplished enough for one day. We woke the giant up, and that's something. Today's novel doesn't deal very heavily in science, but it does take place in a hypothetical future and is thus science fiction. On the docket today is a book called Parable of the Sower, published in 1993 by Octavia E. Butler. About the author. Octavia Butler was born in Pasadena, California in 1947. Pasadena is a suburb of Los Angeles, and perhaps because of that, it was a racially integrated community even before the civil rights movement took off in the 50s and 60s. But, that being said, Butler's parents, both black, were on the bottom rung of society, working as a shoe shiner and housemaid. Butler herself had a hard childhood, and not just because of her race. She was terribly shy as a child, and so to her, books were a refuge from a harsh reality. As such, she would end up gravitating to the bright futures of mid-century science fiction. Butler would soon become interested in writing as well as reading, but while she penned her first story when she was 12, it would take until college for her to start getting money for her writing. Nevertheless, she was fully dedicated to the art and lost a lot of sleeping hours to write her stories. Butler would finally gain recognition in 1973. That was the year she met Harlan Ellison through a minority mentoring program set up by the Screenwriters Guild of America. Ellison was a notorious misanthropist, but he knew talent when he saw it, and he was one of the first people to buy one of her short stories. Later that decade, Butler wrote her first novels, the Patternist series, and by 1978, she made enough money through writing to make it her full-time job. In 1984, Butler won her first Hugo Award for the short story Speech Sounds, and in 1985, she won another Hugo and a Locus Award. However, the book we're looking at today may be one of her most famous. Parable of the Sower came out in 1993, and in 1995, the MacArthur Foundation gave her a fellowship, a so-called genius grant that the foundation hands out to about 24 Americans every year. The MacArthur Foundation focuses on things like climate change and human rights abuses, and the grants they hand out are generally given to people who are working to make the world a better place. Octavia Butler was the first science fiction writer to ever win a fellowship, and Parable of the Sower was very likely the reason she got it. In 1998, Butler followed up Parable of the Sower with Parable of the Talents. She fully intended to keep going with more books in the series, but she eventually gave up because the research was depressing her too much. So she moved on to other stories in other settings, and her final novel, written in 2005, was Fledgling, a book about vampires and culturally inspired violence. Butler would die in early 2006 of a stroke. She was 58. But that's enough real depressing events. Time to discuss some fictional depressing events with the story. The book begins in the distant future of 2024, so about 30 years from when the book was written. The United States is in a freefall. Gas and resource costs are going up, climate change is causing an endless string of disasters, wages are going down, jobs are disappearing, cities are emptying out, and society is collapsing. The infrastructure, organization, and law enforcement needed to keep production up are gone, and as a result, people are starving, going homeless, and dying of easily curable illnesses. Violence is escalating everywhere as desperate, hungry people attack those who appear even slightly better off than they are. The police are no help because they've become just one more armed gang who will show up, demand a service fee, and then maybe beat someone up, possibly you, before calling it a day and going home. The inner cities are essentially gone, Nothing but chaos, rape gangs, and addicts, high on a new drug called pyro that makes watching fires feel as good as sex. Naturally, this means that there are also a lot of arsons going around lately. Still, there are some enclaves of civilization left. A suburban neighborhood, or even just a cul-de-sac, will build a sturdy wall, buy some guns, and patrol their shared land to keep out thieves and arsonists. American corporations have folded thanks to the loss of their customer base, but foreign corporations have started building safe havens so that they can exploit the local labor force. Of course, they've also started using the unfair practices used in the 19th century, like trust busting and fixing prices so that you'll be in debt to the corporation forever. In some cases, they don't even bother pretending that you're not a slave. Into this world was born our protagonist and narrator, Lauren Olamina. Lauren was born with a condition called hyperempathy, which means that she can feel other people's pain to such an extent that, back when she was a child, she would spontaneously bleed if she hurt someone. She's supposed to feel other people's pleasure too, but there's precious little of that since this country started falling apart in the 2010s. Lauren isn't that old when the book starts either. One of the first events she describes is her and other kids in her neighborhood getting baptized by her father, a Baptist minister. Despite her father's profession, however, Lauren has come up with her own God and her own religion, one that fits the chaotic times. She believes that God is change, the very existence of change, and so God is unpredictable, kind or cruel at random, but also something you can shape, direct, learn from, and adapt to. Lauren names her new religion Earthseed because she also believes that it's humanity's destiny to leave Earth and spread throughout the galaxy like the seeds of a dandelion. Most of the older generation in Lauren's neighborhood is in a state of denial, believing that, despite how utterly horrible things have become, they will eventually turn a corner and start going back to the way they used to be. Lauren, seeing as her god is change, does not hold out this hope, and instead prepares an emergency kit, in case she ever has to leave in a hurry. She plans on leaving the neighborhood when she turns 18 and heading north, away from the ruins of Los Angeles to the south. There are stories about people fleeing the United States and going to Canada, but Canada has been swamped by refugees and is now taking strict measures to enforce its border. Still, heading north sounds better than staying put and waiting for the ruined people of a ruined city to finally breach the walls. Lauren's original plan is to go north with her boyfriend, who also wants to get out while the getting's good, but their community gets attacked before they can go. In July of 2027, a gang of pyro addicts overwhelm the guards, burn the houses, and rape and kill the inhabitants. Lauren escapes on her own with her emergency kit and manages to grab some stuff from her house before scavengers take everything, but her family dies, and she only finds 2 survivors of the neighborhood. One is Zara, a younger wife of a man who started his own religion just so he could practice polygamy. The other is Harry, a white boy, unlike Zara and Lauren who are black, of about Lauren's age. The 3 buy some supplies from a heavily guarded store complex and then head north on Interstate 118. With the country gone to shit, the only people using the freeway these days are pedestrians going north and the occasional armored truck barreling down the road. As they move north, Lauren starts talking about her Earthseed philosophy, and the group starts growing as they stop to help strangers. Lauren helps defend an interracial couple with a baby. Race has become a bigger deal with society crumbling, and the couple decide to follow them for a while before Lauren invites them to join. On the road, they meet an older man in his 50s, pushing a cart. His name is Taylor Bankole. He and Lauren bond since both of their last names come from the Yoruba language of West Africa. It was apparently popular in the 1960s for African Americans to change their last names to something African, and both of their ancestors had chosen Yoruba words. Then there's an earthquake, and the group dig a pair of sisters out from under a collapsed chimney. They get attacked by scavengers, and Lauren finds out that she can in fact kill a man if she has to, despite her hyperempathy. Lauren's group also start listening to her Earthseed teachings, mostly because she's offering hope and community at a time when there's precious little of either one. Lauren and Bancoli hit it off in particular, which is more than a little skeevy since he's old enough to be her father, and that's part of what attracts her to him. Still, this is a time and a place where skeevy is peanuts compared to the human rights abuses committed left and right. And besides that, Bancoli knows of a place up north where they might be able to settle. His sister owns a small plot of farmland north of San Francisco and Sacramento. Lauren's group hear on a portable radio that the San Francisco Bay Area has turned into a hellscape of scavenging and violence thanks to that earthquake, and so they take a detour to get them around the Bay Area without going through. Along the way, they pick up a few escaped slaves, who also have hyper-empathy. The condition is apparently sought after in slave labor because it makes people easier to control. Then they get attacked by a gang of pyro addicts, and while they chase them off, they take some casualties. When the group reaches Bancoli's sister's farm, they discover that the place has burned down, and everyone inside is dead. They thought the farm would be safe since it was remote, but it just wasn't remote enough. But despite what happened, the farm is still the group's best chance of starting something new without getting robbed, raped, and killed, and the book ends with the start of the very first Earthseed community. The analysis. I would be remiss if I started with anything but the title. The parable of the sower is told by Jesus in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. To paraphrase, a sower dropped some of his seeds on the road, and birds flew down and ate it. Some seeds fell on rocky ground and withered because they had no roots. Some seeds fell under thorny bushes, and the bushes choked out the sunlight. But some few seeds fell into fertile soil and grew, and the yield was 100-fold. The Gospels also provide an interpretation of the parable. Jesus is the sower, and his seeds are the good word, but most people won't truly understand it for one reason or another. However, those who do get it will be so much greater for it that it's all worth the effort. Notably, Jesus told the parable to a large crowd, but only explained it to his disciples. The parallels between the parable and the novel story are fairly clear. The chaos of societal collapse is forcing a massive struggle between segmenting groups, much like the struggle of the seeds. Those who die without a chance are the seeds eaten by the birds. Those who fall into slavery, either to the corporations or to the gangs, are the ones that wither. Those consumed by thorns are the exploiters, the gangs of arsonists, and the slave drivers who stop caring about other people. But some few seeds find the right soil and grow into something incredible. And that would be the Earthseed movement. Octavia Butler put a lot of herself into this book, which I think is part of why the series was so hard for her to write. Like Butler, Lauren is a black girl who grew up in a racially mixed suburb of Los Angeles. She's shy, smart, and thoughtful, and one major reason she's shy is because the emotions of others can bring her a lot of pain. Butler invented hyper-empathy for the book, but the way it works is fairly similar to the very real social anxiety. That being said, Lauren isn't a perfect copy. From what I can tell, Butler never married, let alone married a man twice her age. But then, of course, there's the setting. Butler wrote this book in the late 80s and early 90s, and that definitely fits with the sort of apocalyptic future it depicts. Low-income neighborhoods were tearing themselves apart thanks to crack cocaine and gang violence. Gay people and heroin users were catching HIV, and it was spreading to the general population. And public perception was just starting to realize how much global warming could screw everyone over. As such, Parable of the Sower represents essentially a worst-case scenario. Law and order collapse, the environment collapses, and the few people with any power left are exploiting the little guy to hold on to as much of it as possible. Well, only in America, though. The rest of the world seems to get on, well, better than the United States at least. Still, since the novel is set in America, this book belongs to the post-apocalypse genre. There's a lot of overlap between that and the dystopia genre, especially since both are generally trying to make a point, but they do have an important distinction. In dystopian works, society is the problem. while in post-apocalyptic works, society is gone and needs rebuilding. It's because of that last bit that post-apocalyptic fiction tends to be more hopeful than dystopias. Yeah, everything we know is gone and millions or billions of people have died, but it's not over yet. There are still survivors, people who got through the worst of it and are rebuilding, adapting to the new order. Life goes on, people go on, even when governments and civilizations don't. Ultimately, life goes on is the message of most apocalyptic books, and it's certainly the message of this one. God is change. Change is inevitable, unstoppable, but also something you can harness. When something unusual happens, you can learn from it. When something new shows up, you can use it as an opportunity to improve your situation. When your way of life breaks down, you can rebuild yourself and be better than before. Change is blind and unthinking, but we aren't. We can do something useful, help each other out, even when the whole world is falling apart. So don't lose hope, especially when things look hopeless. Thanks for joining me again for today's book review, and I hope I'll see you next time for a story about one man trying to change a historical apocalypse.